Hey, it's me, Joey B. I decided to do top 10 instead of a top 5 because I realized I bought quite a lot of wrestling figures this year, way more than I expected that I did. Um, I think WWE is probably my second biggest toy line right now. There were a lot of wrestling figures I liked this year. One figure that I liked a lot that didn't make this list for one reason is Andre the Giant, the Ultimate Edition Andre the Giant. Didn't like the way they did a singlet. But starting off here with the worst wrestling figure I got this year was, I think it was Legends Series, I don't know, 18 out. I have no idea what series Legends are on now. Whatever series this was this Hulk Hogan. This is the look Hulk Hogan wore when he turned on WCW and joined the NWO, I believe. So I thought it'd be really cool to have this as my main new generation, mid 90s era Hogan. But man, this figure sucks. He is super, super tiny for Hulk Hogan. When you think of Hulk Hogan, he's big, huge. And yes, this was when Hogan was at his skinnier point in his career, but he still was never this small. And on top of that, look at his skin tone. He's paler than me. Hogan is not known for being a very white guy. He's a very, very tanned guy. Uh, this Hogan figure really, really disappointed me, and I want to fix this as soon as possible. I don't know, maybe one of those new Hogan packs that came out, do a body swap or something, because this is terrible. Now getting into the actual countdown at number 10. This is probably the newest wrestling figure I got on this list. It is Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner. And I'm super happy we finally got a Scott Steiner figure in the WWE line. I know him and WWE finally had he finally made good terms with WWE, being in the Hall of Fame this year, I believe. Him and his brother. So I think it's really cool they gave him brand new arms, because Steiner has very unique arms in the wrestling industry. No one has arms like Scott Steiner. I want to say his torso is new too, but don't quote me on that. He's not super tall. I first got him by himself. I thought he was maybe too tall, but he actually looks like he scales pretty good with other guys in the line. He's only number 10 because this isn't really a look for Scott Steiner that I really wanted. I like this look. This is a good, ruthless aggression era Scott Steiner. I guess this is how he looked in WWE for that short time he was there. Would have been cooler to have a WCW Scott Steiner. And this, don't know how they could have done this better, this chainmail, but it's not horrible, but I wish it was better. I like to have him be able to pose looking at his arms, and you just can't do that with the way the chainmail is, and that's understandable, but it still sucks. But yeah, Scott Steiner, number 10. Hopefully we get a WCW version of Scott Steiner soon. But good overall. At number 9, I'm going with the Ultimate Edition Ruthless Aggression series, Rob Van Dam. I like this look for Rob Van Dam. I remember he had this attire in, I want to say, SmackDown vs. Raw 2007. He also wore it at ECW One Night Stand 2006 when he beat John Cena for the WWE Championship, and then became ECW champion like a week later. So I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool. I think Mattel does a really good job with the paint work on Rob Van Dam figures, and most of the figures in general have really nice paint work. It just brings him down as, I don't know, he has kind of a weird, you can't tell on camera, I guess, his neck and head area just looks kind of odd to me. So that just brings him down, but I'm still happy with this figure. I like this Rob Van Dam. I'm glad to have him on my shelf. So he's number 9. Now I tried to keep re-release figures off of my top 10, so I didn't include the Legends Greatest Hit figures, even though I really like that Honky Tonk Man. But I didn't include him because it's basically just the same figure we got 6 years ago, just with double joint elbows now. And I think the same can be said about this Ultimate Edition The Rock figure. It's very similar to the Amazon exclusive that came out that I didn't get. But he did have new accessories with this Rock, so technically it's a whole different figure. So I counted it. I think this is a really, really nice Ultimate Edition figure, even though mine has a little bit of paint error with his eye. His eye is slightly off center, which bothers me, but, you know, whatever. The other two heads are good, but the head I actually want to use is the one that's messed up. So if anyone has a raising eyebrow Rock head, I would like to, I'll totally buy that from you. But this is like how I envision the Rock in my head. They put him on a good body mold for the Rock, especially a 90s Rock. I don't like they've been using that super huge ripped Ultimate torso a lot, and it's really wrong on a lot of characters like Kurt Angle and Eddie Guerrero. But this torso they use in the Rock is fantastic. I'm really happy with this figure. Can you see his messed up eye? But yeah, really happy to have this Rock figure. He looks great on my Attitude Era shelf. It's on my Golden Era collection shelf. And this is my favorite of this character that I have in my collection so far. This is Ultimate Edition Survivor Series 2-pack with the Gobbledygooker Undertaker. I think I love the original version of the Undertaker. I think that's one of the best versions of Taker when he was just the undead mortician. He's really cool. Most time Undertaker figures are just slightly too tall. Like they make his shins a little too long. Undertaker's supposed to be a really tall guy, but he's like taller than guys who are taller than him sometimes. And I haven't noticed that problem with this figure. Maybe because he's standing close to Andre the Giant, he doesn't look as tall as usual. But I think this is the best Undertaker figure I have in my collection. I like his soft good trench coat. I think Mattel did a pretty good job at it. They're way better. Their WWE soft goods are way better than Hasbro's Marvel Legends soft goods. So I like this figure, the Undertaker. At number 6, going back to the Ruthless Aggression era with the Ultimate Edition figures. This time, this figure came out in the same wave as Rob Van Dam. We're going with Brock Lesnar. So Brock Lesnar, I think it's cool. He also gets unique torsos for his figures. That was probably a terrible Paul Heyman impression, by the way. But I like that they give him like unique torsos because Brock has a very unique physique amongst wrestlers. They have they did a good job on his tattoos. This is my preferred era of Brock Lesnar. I like the beginning of the Ruthless Aggression era of Brock Lesnar from 2002 to 2004, before he left to go to the UFC, or before he left to go join football, but then he went to the UFC. My only problem with this figure is his head sculpts. Head sculpt's not the best. I can tell it's Brock Lesnar, but it's not really the best head sculpt. Also, Brock Lesnar is probably the most famous person from the state that I live in, South Dakota, in the modern day, because he's been pushed so heavy in the past like 10 years. Part of the reason why I stopped watching wrestling, actually. But this figure is the Brock Lesnar that I remember, and this is the Brock Lesnar I like. Which his head sculpts are better, like I just said, but fun to have on my Ruthless Aggression era shelf. At number 5, I have just a normal Elite figure. This is the brother of Scott Steiner. We have Rick Steiner. And Rick Steiner, I think his paintwork on him is just incredible. You can't see on his on his singlet. Like you look when you pull the buttons off here, the buttons are like the paint is even on the clasps of the jacket. He did a great job with his paint job. So I've always been big fans of the Steiner brothers. I've always wanted figures of them, so I'm super happy to get them. I think Rick Steiner is really cool. Like his jacket is just awesome. I wish it was soft goods because they do a good job with their soft goods if it was printed, but I don't. Maybe they couldn't do the printing and the metal bulldogs on there if they did soft goods. But even as is, it's a really, really good figure. I hope we get more Rick and Scott Steiner figures in the future. 90s Rick and Scott when they were in WWE. That'd be really cool. Or WWF. That'd be really cool to have. But I like this figure. His paint scheme, his paint job is really what brings him up higher for me than the other I'm just really happy to have a Rick Steiner. Supposedly he did some bad stuff, so he might not get any more figures, unfortunately. I hope they get those out before he gets before he actually gets in trouble. For all I know, it's just accusations, but hopefully we get more figures of Rick Steiner before he's actually banned or anything like that. But happy to have him. 4 is a wrestler that gets lots of action figures, but I always felt like they were never really done right. This guy is 6'5", but his figures always look like small to me. I'm talking about Jake the Snake Roberts from the Coliseum Ultimate Edition collection. I like this Jake Roberts a lot. It has the stature that I always saw Jake Roberts as having. It's a nice new torso. He's not super ripped or anything. I like that. This is my mind's eye version of Jake the Snake. My one only problem with this Jake is that his snake Damien was a Burmese python. I'm a reptile guy. I know my animals. That's definitely not a Burmese python he has there. The color scheme is not right for a Burmese python. It's not right for Damien specifically. That's a nitpicky thing, I think. Jake the Snake is the star of the show here, not the python. So, Jake the Snake, number 4. Number 4. At number 3, we have the guy who came in the 2-pack with Jake the Snake. We got Ravishing Rick Rude. And I like this guy because they gave him a new torso as well. He's super ripped, but he's not that giant oversized Ultimate Edition torso. This is a torso that's perfectly made for the chiseled physique of Ravishing Rick Rude. I think this is a really fantastic figure. Again, he matches the height and physique that I imagine Rick Rude having. One of the best physiques in all of wrestling history. Only thing that brings him down is if he would have been higher if he had a more elaborate tights design. Like Rick Rude usually has some crazy elaborate tights. I get this is based on the old LJN figures, so that's why it's the way it is. But it would have been cool to have one of his more elaborate tights designs. Still, Rick Rude, really happy to have this figure. And both him and most Ultimate Edition figures come with many alternate heads, hands, stuff like that. I think so. It's really impressive. And Rick Rude, no exception to that. I think he has 3 heads, probably 4 sets of hands. I don't know exactly. He didn't count. I forget. It's been a while since I opened him, but still, really cool figure. At number 2, we are surprisingly going for an Elite style figure rather than Ultimates. This figure probably would have been number 1 if it wasn't Ultimate. We have what I consider one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time. We have Mr. Perfect Curt Henning. And he's from, I don't remember what Legend Series it is again, whatever one's after the Hulk Hogan one, has Triple H in it, had Ted DiBiase in it, who was very small, so they're not very good figure. But Mr. Perfect here is damn near perfect. I love this rubber overlay they did for his singlet, so you can pull that down and have him you can have him pull singlet style like how he did in his matches occasionally. I like that. It's a way better design than what they did with the Ultimate Edition Kurt Angle, where they had a fabric singlet that looked god awful and his torso was way too big. It was just a horrible figure all around. I didn't get that one at all. But this Mr. Perfect is how they should do those pull down singlets. Rubber. Maybe it'll fall apart over time. I don't know, but so far it looks great. I don't plan to be pulling that down for him. I plan to leave him just how he is. I think he looks really fantastic. His head sculpt looks like Curt Henning. Just really happy to have this figure. I think he's one of my favorites. I hope they re-release this figure in different colors so I can get one for my NWO, one for my new generation era. Like I think maybe an orange singlet one. I think orange singlet's how I most remember Mr. Perfect. But yeah, I think he's a really good figure, really underrated wrestler, Mr. Perfect Curt Henning. And my number one, I don't know if this is I don't know if this has been controversial at all. I'm not super huge in the wrestling community. I just like these figures. This is my first year really getting back into wrestling figures. I got into them late 2022 to 2023. Has been going hard with wrestling figures. My number one figure though is a wrestler that a lot of these guys is because I noticed their statures are usually off in the elite line. So I wait for the Ultimates, because the Ultimates have been, for the most part, killing it. Once in a while they choose those bad body molds. But for this guy, I think they finally got his head sculpt right, or at least mostly right, and his body style right. I'm talking about the bad guy, Razor Ramon. Hey, Chico. I love Razor Ramon. I think he's like a really great wrestler back in the day. Rest in peace to Scott Hall. I'm looking forward to the Scott Hall repaint of this they're getting for the ringside exclusive set. I just think I think he's really well done. I'm happy they finally, like, even more so than Jake and stuff. Razor, I think they've never gotten right. He's always really small. He's always, he always, his face to me always looked more like the fake Razor Ramon. So I think they finally got Scott Hall's likeness down almost. Like it's not still kind of off, but it's way closer than usual. I thought his body hair was done nice, done better than most body hairs I've seen on most action figures. So Razor Ramon, really cool figure. Really happy to have him, and so he is my number one WWE Elite figure of the year. So you guys let me know in the comments down below what you thought about this list. Do you collect wrestling figures? If you do, leave your list in the comments down below. I'd love to hear it. If you like this video, please subscribe and stay tuned for more content. Keep on collecting.